Hello everyone, it's Colby, and today we are going to check out some amazing additions that Critical Role has added to D&D, mainly looking at the subclasses that they've added. These subclasses are from a variety of sources. I'm going to be taking a look at the wiki because I want to show you guys something or have you guys something to look at. I'm a little bit too lazy to edit, and I would never show the actual book's content, so all of these subclasses, if they come from a book or if they come from a source that will directly give money back to the creators, I will put the links for those places to get them in the description below. So let's get into it then with the Runechild. So I've never been a big fan of sorcerers, but I do love when subclasses take the essence of a class and expand on it really well. And with sorcerers, the key thing with sorcerers is their sorcery points. They have a certain number of sorcery points that they can use in a variety of ways, and the Runechild kind of builds off that foundation of the sorcerer and adds a second sort of currency on top of it called essence runes. And essentially what happens when you use a sorcery point, an equal number of the sorcery points you use becomes charged runes, and these charge runes can be used in a variety of ways. For an example of what you can use it at first level, you can use it to as a reaction. You can expend any number of charge runes to reduce the damage by 1d6 per charged rune if you get attacked, which is a great defensive mechanism. And at 6th level, the Runechild can also use an action to transfer it to someone else, which just gives them essentially like a buff for up to an hour. You can also use the runes to gain advantage on either strength, dexterity, or constitution checks until the start of your next turn. Not amazingly powerful, but it does add a little bit of options there. And then at 14th level, when casting a spell, you can expend a number of charge runes equal to that spell's level to ignore any resistance or immunity to the spell's damage type. So that is super helpful when it comes to fighting anything with a fire resistance. Fire is the most common spell damage type, but it is also the most commonly resisted. So that's very helpful and just adds more versatility. And then finally, you can expel as a bonus action at least 6 charge runes to gain the following benefits for 3 rounds. You can expend more of the runes to extend that to be more rounds, essentially plus 1 round for each additional charge rune over 6. You gain a flying speed of 40 feet, which is great. Resistance to damage from spells. Spell save DC increased by 2. And when you cast a spell of 1st level or higher, you gain hit points equal to the spell's level, which is great. It's a great bit of defensive. It is a little bit disappointing that you don't get more additional damage, because at 18th level, you really want to be pumping out all those like crazy spells and crazy damage on enemies. But at 18th level, you're casting not high level spells, so I'm sure you're doing just fine after that. So it adds a little bit more of a defensive buff to any sorcerer that is afraid of how low their armor class is and how low their health is. So this can be found, the Runechild can be found in the Critical Role Tal'Dorei campaign setting, or I think it's also called Tal'Dorei campaign setting Reborn. So link to that book in the description. And let's move on to another subclass that is also in that book, the Path of the Juggernaut. And I absolutely love this subclass here. You are exactly how it sounds. If you've seen Juggernauts in any video game, I remember probably the most prominent Juggernaut I can think of is in Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So these Juggernauts, they have huge armor, like this armor on them that gives them tons of health. They usually have like a light machine gun. They just walk towards you. They're so hard to stop and kill. You essentially just have to run away and shoot them because they're so powerful. So this is a great idea for a barbarian, just becoming an unstoppable force And the level 3 feature is super great thematically for this. Essentially, when you make an attack, you force them to make a strength saving throw, and on a failure, you get to push the target in a direction of your choice, which is great just by being a barbarian. But what I love about this level 3 trait is that it's great for multi-classing as well. If you want to be any tank and you want to control the battlefield, being able to push your enemies around is so helpful. And at 10th level, the push distance increases up 10 feet, which is even better. You can push, enemies away from your allies to get them out of that opportunity attack range. Or you can just kind of bop them around. You can bop them off cliffs into water, mess them up. So, and additionally, because you're basically a powerhouse, no one can knock you down. So while you're raging, you can't be knocked prone or moved against your will, which absolutely is very helpful. So that on top of Thunderous Blows is a great 3rd level trait. At 6th level, you get Demolishing Might, which means you deal double damage to objects and structures, and you gain a bit of extra damage to constructs as well. This again being that unstoppable force. I like to imagine like the Juggernaut from X-Men just breaking through a wall. Pretty cool. That would be pretty disappointing if that was the only 6th level one, but you can also do Resolute Stance, which you just make yourself a bulwark of defense at the start of your turn with no action required as well. You can assume a defensive stance that lasts until the start of their next turn. At the start of your next turn. And you can't be grappled, and all weapon attacks and attacks in general have disadvantage against you. At 10th level, Hurricane Strike is great. It adds on to the 3rd level ability by allowing you to essentially jump forward. So you push and then you jump forward to reach the person you just pushed. And in addition, you get to force them to do a strength saving throw or have them be knocked prone. Which, if you do that on your first attack, your second attack is just going to really make them hurt. If you have any other allies nearby that are melee as well, this would be so helpful. And what's even better, and this is a nice little bit of variety, or kind of thinking about where everyone's placed on the battlefield. When you push the creature into a space within 5 feet of one of your allies, your ally can use its reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that creature. It is super helpful if they haven't used their reaction. At 14th level, you become immune to being frightened, paralyzed, stunned. It does fit. It's a little bit disappointing at 14th level, but either way, every kind of trait before it is amazing, and I would highly recommend you check out this subclass. As I mentioned before, this can be found in the Tal'Dorei campaign setting Reborn book. Link to that book will be in the description. Now let's move on to Oath of the Open Sea, which is a Paladin subclass. And first off, you get expanded spell list, just like many of the other newer subclasses get. And, Oath of the Open Sea sounds exactly as it is. You're more of a seafarer type paladin. Your spells reflect that, and really reflect kind of like the freedom of movement that a boat offers, freedom on the waves. So you get Expeditious Retreat, you get Misty Step as a paladin, which is super helpful. Call Lightning. There's a couple homebrew spells in here as well, Freedom of the Waves and Freedom of the Winds, which are great, and Freedom of Movement. So those spells are good, are great. I wouldn't say it's really an amazing spell list, but it does fit the theme of the Oath of the Open Sea quite well as the Channel Divinity. So, using your Channel Divinity, one of them is you can create a thick cloud of fog with a radius of 20 feet centered on yourself and lasting 10 minutes. The area within the fog is considered heavily obscured. The paladin and any creatures within 5 feet of them, however, treat the area as lightly obscured. So this is amazing thematically, even if it isn't, you know, amazing in combat. It actually is kind of great to be able to be like heavily obscured like that and be this moving fog cloud, which just sounds and looks so cool in my head. The other channel divinity, as a bonus action, you can choose to push a creature hit by your weapon attack 10 feet away. This isn't too helpful. You know, if you do push it into an obstacle or another creature, they take additional bludgeoning damage equal to your charisma modifier. Not going to be very much, but if you're on a boat, if the situation comes up, it's going to be great to have. Mostly you're probably going to be doing Marine Lair, but Fury of the Tides is there as a great alternative. Additionally, Aura of Liberation, not exactly amazing. It just means that, you know, everyone within 10 feet of you cannot be grappled or restrained and can ignore penalties on movement or attacks while underwater, which is pretty cool, but something it can do. But again, kind of situational. If you're going to play this subclass, I would very much recommend considering what campaign you're playing. If you're going to be landlocked, this is probably not going to be the best subclass for you, but it is great for what it provides in the perfect campaign. And then at 15th level, you can essentially use your reaction when a creature enters or exits your melee range and force them to take 1d12 bludgeoning damage, and on a failed strength saving throw, knock them prone, which is not really amazing damage. The knocking prone is really nice. But yeah, at 15th level, 1d12 is not that much for something, you know, to use a reaction on. But I don't really care too much because thematically it's great. If someone comes within range of you being able to hit them, you just send waves towards them. It's great. And then at level 20, the level 20 feature really makes up for it, which basically makes you a swashbuckler. So climbing does not cost additional movement, and you have advantage on strength and athletic checks. If you're within 5 feet of a creature and no other creatures are within 5 feet of you, attacks against that creature are made with advantage. You can take dodge as a bonus action, super helpful for a tank, and have advantage on all dexterity ability checks. Not extremely overpowered, but again, very thematically nice. Swashbuckler is one of my favorite subclasses as a rogue. So, not insanely powerful, but the theme is there. In the right campaign, can be absolutely amazing. And just like the other ones, this is also in... Yeah, this one, it can also be found in the Tal'Dorei book. But this is also free on DnD Beyond, which I will also put the link to in the description. So, looking at the second last one is the Echo Knight. So I don't have all of the features in front of me. That is mainly because this one comes... this one was originally, I think, free in some way, but now... then it was kind of made official in D&D through the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. The idea of the Echo Knight is absolutely amazing. I've played an Echo Knight and I've seen this in practice, and it's exactly how it sounds. You make an echo of yourself and you can interact with the echo in various ways. So as a bonus action, you can teleport to your echo, essentially switching places, granting you some pretty cool mobility with the Echo Knight. When you take an attack action, your attack can originate from the echo's space. So if you are trying to do a ranged attack and someone's right up on you, don't want to take that disadvantage, you can shoot it from your Echo Knight as well. And your Echo Knight can take opportunity attacks, but it does take your reaction. So this is just a great bit of battlefield control. Your Echo Knight does have an armor class. You know, I'm not going to go through all the details. Additionally, you can take one additional melee attack if you do attack from the Echo's position. Unfortunately, this has to be melee, so it can't be ranged, but still really cool to be able to get an extra attack. And you can use this feature a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier. And then the later traits are really just enhancing your abilities with the Echo Knight, giving you more options, giving you more versatility, and just kind of fleshing out the idea of having another copy of yourself. And at 18th level, you can even create two of you. So the Echo Knight is an amazing class. It's probably an S tier subclass. Actually, I think in our subclass ranking, we did rank it S tier. And again, this one can be found in Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, which is a Wizards of the Coast official book. The last one we're going to be looking at is Percy himself from Vox Machina, the Gunslinger. This is, you know, if you ever wanted to bring guns into a campaign, this is that character. This is that subclass, and it has some great options. It's a little bit complicated. I'm not going to go into all the details with it. I'd recommend looking into the details yourself. This is actually free on DnD Beyond, or you can get it off on Dungeon Masters Guilds. You know, the legendary Matthew Mercer made this one, so you can throw him $1 there for his amazing subclass on Dungeon Masters Guilds, or yeah, it is also on D&D Beyond. So the Gunslinger class is, well, it's a fighter. It's a fighter subclass that uses guns. You get lots of different trick shots as well, granting you many different options on how you want to play it. You know, playing the Gunslinger though does bring some issues in to campaigns sometimes, because the addition of guns in the campaign can be a little bit complicated. So make sure you ask your DM before you just bring this class with a gun to your medieval fantasy thing. But yes, it's a great class. There's a reason why, you know, Percy is so popular. Just the idea of having a gun in that kind of fantasy environment is great. It is a fairly powerful class, not for beginners. As I mentioned, it's fairly advanced, but I'd highly recommend looking into the Gunslinger class and subclass, and definitely looking into watching Vox Machina or some of the older Critical Role streams. They are great. So that is the last class that we are going to be going over. Let me know what you guys think about those subclasses. There are many more that Critical Role has made. I've read a decent amount of them, and they are also great. There's more in the Tal'Dorei book, and yeah, again, link to that book is going to be in the description, as well as the links to the other places. I'd highly recommend checking those books out. Critical Role is an amazing organization and group of people, so props to them for being such a great positive influence on the community, and can't wait to see what they make next. Like and subscribe, of course, and have a good day or night, whatever time it is. Have a good one.